Greetings, programs. This is Wretch. Welcome back to VTM Coteries of New York. And things ended on kind of a tense note at the end of the last episode, guys. We're here at the park where Sophie wanted us to take off the training wheels, so to speak, and find a meal without her help. And we were able to feed from someone at the decrepit pavilion. Unfortunately, we ran into this pillar of the community who not only knows that we're kindred, but is a kindred himself, and wants to know who we're riding with, so to speak. So we have a choice between saying we're here with Sophie, saying we're with the Camarilla in general, or we can go ahead and provoke a fight. I don't really want to give Sophie's name, so let's go with the middle approach and just say we're with the Camarilla in general. Chill out. I'm with the Camarilla. He does anything but chill out. He immediately tenses up, gives you an extremely nasty look, and bares his fangs. You with the ivory tower, cunts, huh? Well, tonight's my lucky night. I'ma fuck you up and bring you to Callahan. He'll have some fun breaking your shins, and maybe by the end of it, I'll get to have a nice long sip. I wonder what you taste like, Lick. He does his best impression of Hannibal Lecter's and a nice Chianti shtick, but it's not as intimidating as he thinks. Call for help, attack him, or we can use celerity. Now, I don't know if I want to use any of our disciplines yet, because that's going to cause our blood to kind of get boiled, for lack of a better term. Call for help. You know what? Let's just attack him. Saying that it's not as intimidating as he thinks it is, maybe we can get the drop on him. You decide the time for talking is over. You rush him and throw him off balance, landing on the ground. He's fast, but weak. The brawl takes a bit out of both of you. Suddenly, you hear heavy footsteps closing in, and the thug is snatched from over you. He hits a tree hard, and before he can recover, a sharp piece of wood pierces his chest. It's Gregory, Sophie's driver, who deals the blow. The hoodlum is rendered inert. His eyes remain open, but he does not move and does not protest when Gregory puts him over his shoulder. Miss Langley is waiting for us. Come before your snack wakes up. He points to your victim, who is just coming to and gives you a somewhat snarky smile, then breaks into a swift walk toward the Unisphere. Hey, thanks for the help. Miss Langley asked me to look out for you. She suspected you'd get into trouble. He seems to realize he might have said too much and just keeps walking, somewhat embarrassed. You reach the Unisphere together, with the hoodlum in tow. Two figures are visible near the sculpture, a man and woman, tangled in a passionate embrace. No, not exactly. It's Sophie, feeding. But this whole scene is set up to looks like a pair getting intimate in public. She pulls it off like she's done it 100 times before. It occurs to you that she probably has. The man is unsure on his feet as she lets go of him and leads him toward a nearby bench. Noticing you, she whispers something into his ear and leaves him. She nods to Gregory as you approach. And what do we have here? Did this kindred give you trouble, Xavier? Yeah, a bit, but Gregory was there to help, so we've got a state kindred on our hands, and he's not Camarilla. Corona Park hasn't been claimed by anyone I know of. Curious. Let's go to the car. We'll put him in the trunk and present him to Kadir tomorrow night. I'm sure he'll be delighted to make this hoodlum's acquaintance. Gregory carries the state vampire and dumps him in the car's trunk like a mannequin. It's a strange sight, and you're quite happy you're not in that poor fucker's shoes right now. It's almost surprising that you can get away with just casually throwing a stiff into your car and driving away, but then you remember that Sophie has been doing this far longer than you have. Still, the nagging thought that anything you did tonight could have been recorded on a CCTV camera, or picked up by a rando with a half-decent smartphone and streamed online, fills you with dread. Hunting and using your abilities is a dangerous business. It's clear that this whole being a vampire thing has about as many caveats as it has perks. Or caveats. You're taken out of your headspace by Sophie's voice. I will pick you up tomorrow night, same as tonight. I have some business to attend to at Elysium, and I expect you to accompany me. Plus, our friend in the back needs to be properly introduced to Kadir and the prince. I'm sure he'll have some interesting things to say to the court. Her voice is cold, cruel, and nothing like the enchanting personality she showed at the gallery earlier tonight. Sophie is clearly a woman of many faces. What's going to happen to him? The usual, I imagine. Interrogation by Kadir, probably in the basement of the gallery. A quick trial, with the prince in attendance if she's there tomorrow night. And a swift execution as the verdict. This all sounds eerily familiar to you, and you can't help but feel a pang of guilt when you think about what awaits this guy tomorrow night. You haven't told me how your hunting went. Getting the hang of it, I would hope. I think I am, yeah. I'll cope. I'm glad. She doesn't question you further. She seems distracted, not all there. Her thoughts drift, and the car remains silent until you reach your apartment. We will pick you up tomorrow evening. Good night. Just like that, without any further courtesy, Sophie leaves, driven to her apartment by Gregory, with a body in the trunk, right in the middle of Manhattan. Did you cross paths with situations like these in the past unknowingly? What other secrets did you pass on the streets without knowing their true nature? Your haven is just as you left it hours ago. Although the sun won't come up for some time, you feel tired. You learned something about yourself today, and it'll take time to process. You're not in the mood for television, and the few books on the shelves in the apartment are either in languages you don't speak or sound like a boring read. Nothing left to do but rest. You settle in the back room, lock the door. A moment of hesitation, but then a decision. This time, you turn the light off. You think back to Julie. How many people in the city know about this vampiric society? How many are willing accomplices in sustaining it? And the thug you met in the park, if he's not Camarilla, then what is he? Are there independent vampires? How does that work? More questions. You begin wondering if there's ever going to be a night when you can start crossing them off the list, instead of adding to it. You close your eyes. You sink into the now familiar void of nothingness. It greets you with open arms, like an old friend. Alright, no other option here but to rest. And I guess we're going to have our first taste of, or technically our second taste of Elysium. You open your eyes. It's pitch dark here, the blackness of a coffin, drifting in the abyss. Oh, right, the light. You grasp for the switch and flip it. The familiar cramped room with a steel door and no windows comes into view. You emerge from the bedroom fully awake, just like yesterday. This time, however, Sophie is waiting for you, comfortably seated on the sofa in your living room space, a book in her hand, The Melancholy of Resistance. The title's sure on brand. Good evening, Xavier. You would assume that she would have the key to this place, so... Good evening, Sophie. I hope you rested well. Tonight will be quite eventful, I think. Come, we have an appointment. I received word Elysium would be called again tonight on account of your unruly friend from Corona Park, This should be a great opportunity for you to mingle. She keeps talking as you walk downstairs and get in the car. Gregory gives you a slight nod and a small smile while opening the door for Sophie. He starts the car when you take your seat in the back. Most of the Primogen Council, I've heard it say Primogen or Primogen, I always say Primogen. Council is bound to be there, at least those who usually attend. Probably some other important personalities you do well to at least learn about. You never told me if there's any kind of rules I should respect when talking to other vampires. Knowing that you're among your superiors is probably the most important. In our society, status comes with age. Pardon my sincerity, but you are insignificant. Not even associating with me can make the fact that you've been kindred for barely a few nights be forgotten. So know your place. Stay out of your superior's business, and show the utmost respect. Thanking the prince for sparing you, and maybe having a friendly chat with Kadir publicly, might show your gratefulness for being part of the Camarilla now. I would suggest you make it sincere. At any rate, you should behave yourself tonight. Remember what I told you about reflecting on me as your patron. I have a reputation to uphold in the court. Do not tarnish it. There it is. She might have saved you. She might be protecting and teaching you, but it's clear what she's concerned about. Her own interests. You step into the art hole with something of a bad memory. Last time you were here, your entire world had been turned upside down, and your existence nearly ended. But tonight there is very little outward hostility. Yes, Kadir gives you a look that's definitely intended to remind you of your place, but the prince, also in attendance, seems pleased to see you. Welcome, Sophie. Xavier. Did I get that right? Good evening to both of you. I understand there is somebody else you wish to present to the court tonight? Yes, Prince. They'll be joining us shortly. My assistant is retrieving them presently. This better be worth the prince's time, Langley. The prince gives Kadir a cold glance. Forgive the sheriff's harshness. He's in a particularly foul mood tonight. Something to do with Xavier's begetter eluding his grasp, I believe. Ouch. That must have hurt his ego, even if his only reply is a crooked smile. The mention of your sire makes you feel a pang of emotion again. Whoever he was, he left a lasting impression, one reinforced with your visit to the show space last night. But that's the past. Right now, though, you're back in the gallery and are reminded of your sister instead. Emma frequents this place. Is she aware of these clandestine meetings after dark? The flaring up of whispers in the gallery hall breaks you out of your thoughts. Gregory enters the room, the jumpsuit-clad, inert vampire still staked on his shoulder. The show's about to start. Sophie's driver places his charge in the middle of the room and nods respectfully to Kadir. The sheriff approaches the vampire and removes the stake from his chest. The captive's eyes flicker to life. He starts looking around in disbelief. Like a cornered animal, he backs out on all fours, keeps going in circles until he realizes he's trapped. Kadir steps on the man's chest and pins him to the floor. Why? Who do we have here? Oh, fuck. Oh, shit, no. Come on. Don't. Silence. The sheriff takes on an aura of utter dread. He appears as if he's a primal force of nature that's out to get you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do but shrivel in terror. The beast inside you shrieks. You could swear it happens in unison with the instincts of some of the other guests here tonight. It's unlike anything you've experienced in this company during your turbulent first night as a vampire. He really did go easy on you, all things considered. It seems like it takes all of the hoodlum's willpower to not crawl into a fetal position and start crying. No. Please. Don't hurt me, man. Don't. You and me are going to have a little talk downstairs. At the prince's discretion. Please. Go ahead, my sheriff. You heard the prince. Get up. Let's go. He doesn't wait for a confirmation. He just grabs the man and drags him, kicking and screaming, out of the room. Conversations start all around you. Some whispered, some quite overt. Sophie looks somewhat bored of the whole affair, her eyes wandering from art piece to art piece, clearly finding nothing to her particular liking. So, what happens now? It'll be at least some minutes before Kadir gets the information he seeks out of this thug. Why not mingle while we wait for him to break? Excuse me. Sophie leaves your side and goes to the corner of the gallery where a group of kindred, some seemingly pretty old-fashioned, gathered. A concierge offers you a drink. Still warm. It smells nice. Just a sip to start you off. A splash over your palate, coating your tongue and the inside of your cheeks. Nourishment. You're left to your own devices. You have a quick look around. The prince is currently talking to a dark-skinned woman that you recall seeing here those few nights ago. She has a cold but noble countenance to her. The conversation seems to be casual. A loud, shrill laugh turns your attention to the bespectacled man who you saw with Sophie on the night of your judgment. He's making the rounds, chatting up different patrons. You feel somebody's eyes on you. A casually dressed, plain-looking man stands alone near a column, watching you. He turns his gaze away sheepishly when he realizes you've noticed. Oh? Well, we could try to talk to the prince. Well, wait, he did say that we needed... she did say we needed to talk to the prince, and we needed to talk to Kadir. So... let's try to talk to the prince? That's... I'd either like to do that or confront the man looking at us. But... let's go ahead and try and do what Sophie wanted us to do. You approach the prince, trying to stay as respectful of her private conversation as possible. She glances at you as you step forward, her scrutinizing gaze mimicked by her companion. She addresses the dark-skinned woman before turning to you. Excuse me for just a moment, Samira. Yes, Xavier. What is it? There it is. I wish to thank you for sparing me, Prince. I realize it wasn't an easy decision to make, and I wanted to express my sincere appreciation. How thoughtful of you. She takes a long look at you before she continues. I didn't do it from the kindness of my unbeating heart. You are an asset to Miss Langley, to the Camarilla, and to me. I believe I made the right decision. Prove to me and the other kindred of this city that it was so, and there might be more to your future nights than just survival and servitude. The dark-skinned woman looks impatiently at you and catches the prince's attention. Forgive me, that's all the time I can spare right now. We have some things to discuss with Samira still. Enjoy your night, Xavier. Oh, yeah, that's not a good way to go. Oh, no. Let's bow and leave. You leave the two women to their conversation, which they get back to almost immediately after the prince turns to Samira. You notice Sophie mingling with other kindred, clearly in her element, and not to be disturbed. Kadir hasn't come back yet, so you can probably still find time for at least one conversation. Awesome, I was wondering if that was kind of a one-shot. Let's confront the man looking at us. There's something about this guy. It's not that he's staring at you. Most everybody in this room has at one point or another. It's how he does it. He seems shy, maybe even afraid. It's hard to find a secluded spot in the gallery tonight, but this guy has an entire corner of the room all to himself. He's standing alone, no glass in hand, just a look of worry as you approach. You look worried. Is something wrong? What? Besides hanging out with blood-drinking monsters and acting like it's not a big deal? No, I guess it's business as usual. His bitterness is palpable. I'm sorry, I'm having a bad night. The name's Larson, or you can call me Robert. Either's fine. Why are you standing around by yourself like this? I'm not hugely liked around these parts. I'm surprised you wanted to talk to me. Then again, you're new, you probably don't know. I'm one of Prince Panhard's Primogen. I'm here on business, in case the prince requires my insight, usually so she can hear me out before she ignores me. Not sure if you were paying attention the other night, but when the prince mentioned diverging opinions on whether you should be executed or not, that was me. I was the diverging opinion. That's huge. Thank you, even if it didn't change the prince's mind. Yeah, that's usually how it goes. Listen, I don't want to be rude, and I appreciate you reaching out, but word of advice? Stay away from me. Many vampires in this sect regard my position as Primogen to be kind of a joke, you know? You talk to me, they'll notice, and they'll hold it against you. You have a quick look behind you and see that a few of the kindred keep shooting you curious glances. One woman especially, a redhead boasting a fanciful hairstyle, watches you disapprovingly. Some of them already do, I imagine. Excuse me, I need to try and get a word in with a few Primogen members before Kadir returns. Enjoy your night. With just the critical looks of a few kindred to keep you company, you start thinking about who to pursue next. A loud exchange near the staircase grabs everybody's attention. Kadir is back, and the hoodlum is with him. The sheriff pushes his unfortunate victim inside the room. The vampire that threatened you last night is a mess. That stupid hat still inexplicitly on his head, covering some of his ruined face in a welcome shadow. He's barely conscious. His shin is broken, you think. Something protruding there, making a bulge in the pant leg. One arm seems twisted at a strange angle. Very little blood, surprisingly, but clearly a whole lot of hurt. Well, Kadir, did our guest cooperate?
Tell the prince your name.
It's Howard.
And who do you run with, Howard?
The Midnighters.
An anarch coterie, my prince. Active for some time now, though from what this one told me, the name is about the only legacy the group kept over the years.
I see. Hey, Prince, I didn't mean it. I didn't know. I didn't. A loud crack has some of the guests audibly gasp as Kadir's slap dislocates the man's jaw. A spray of blood creates something like an abstract art piece on the floor.
This one is guilty of threatening a member of the Camarilla and claiming a domain without the prince's approval. That would be enough to pass swift judgment, but he is also anarch scum. My prince.
There can be only one verdict. Final death. Do your duty, Sheriff. Unless, of course, somebody would like to play at being a good Samaritan like our dear Miss Langley a few nights ago. The look of the prince serves you and Sophie a cruel jest. Sophie takes it gracefully, smiling and slipping her arm into yours in a strange public show of affection. Nobody says anything. The vampire named Howard jumps to his feet and makes for the window. Oh man. Stop Howard from escaping. Do not intervene. Celerity, grab Howard. I wonder. We're going to take initiative here. We're going to see what happens. In a split second, you make your choice. Focusing your blood, you dash forward and grab Howard by the back of his jumpsuit, pulling him away from the window. You expect some resistance, but you find you don't have to worry about it when a swift cut separates Howard's head from his body. You let go, and the headless corpse slumps to the ground. Kadir is standing between you and the window, his sword drawn, and an ugly smile on his face. Well, Xavier, your eagerness is laudable, if unnecessary. That Howard fellow couldn't have hoped to escape his fate, not with Kadir's expertise. However, I have made note of this show of loyalty on both your and your patron's accounts. I would like to thank Miss Langley for bringing this anarch thug to mine and Kadir's attention. I assume all have found the verdict satisfactory? It's a rhetorical question, and everybody here knows it. Then I consider tonight's meeting concluded. Good night to all of you. She steps out of the room, and you see that many of the guests motion to do the same. Sophie seems to be conversing with somebody, a serious-looking man in a trench coat, about what transpired. You probably have the time to strike up a conversation of your own, too. Kadir al-Asamai is still here, but clearly getting ready to leave, for one. Larson is still moping around. And the other man you noticed before Kadir brought the Anarch here is still chatting with the remaining attendants. Well, this allows us to talk to Kadir before he leaves. The sheriff's mood seems to have improved, so you decide there won't be a better shot at saying your piece. He's just sheathing his sword as you approach him. He notices you just before his face turns from a melancholic frown to his regular predatory smirk. You seem to have caught him at a moment of reflection.
What is it, Xavier?
I wanted to thank you for bringing me here in one piece. For giving me a chance. An emotion creeps onto Kadir's face that you haven't seen the sheriff exhibit yet. Is that gratitude? It's fleeting, only there for a moment, gone in a blink of an eye.
It was trying on my nerves, and you were still far and away from proving that it was the right thing to do. So don't think that a few kind words will let you off the hook. Still, I have to admit, I was just as surprised at the prince when you jumped on the occasion to stop that anarch from escaping. I was sure Valerie would have beat you to it. If there's nothing else, I'll be taking my leave.
I don't know if that's the right thing to ask a sheriff. Do you enjoy cutting people's heads off? I was wondering if you could tell me something about Sophie. She talks a lot about the Camarilla and other things, but I barely know anything about her.
Oh, I can tell you something about Sophie. Some things she wouldn't want you to hear. Like the fact she's manipulative and vindictive. But then again, which of us kindred aren't? You want to know more about Sophie's past? Ask her. She's unlikely to tell you the truth, though. I'm quite sure she never told me, despite our previous history. That's what we do, fledgling. We exist for centuries, and we lie. To our families, our friends, our lovers, to our kindred, sires, and children, and to ourselves.
He picks up the sword and turns to the stairs.
Good night. And watch yourself. You've messed up my batting average, so I'll be sure to keep a close eye on you.
And with that final threat, he leaves the gallery. It's right about when Sophie also ends her conversation and walks over to you. Interesting evening, wasn't it? Come, Gregory's waiting downstairs. She seems preoccupied with something and not in a talkative mood. It's an awkward ride back to the city. This time, you arrive at another building, just 2 streets across from your apartment. She brings you upstairs through a very nice lobby and a luxurious-looking hall into her domain. Please, have a seat. I shall be right with you. You take in the surroundings. The apartment is like a gallery, an old-school smoking room that you've seen in some period piece once, and nouveau riche's, sorry if I'm butchering that, living room, meticulously put together. Apologies. Old habits die hard. Clearly, some stick with you even after your death. She drags on the cigarette and breathes out. Breathes? How is she doing that? Can you do that? Oh yes, you might not know. It takes some practice, but you can keep smoking if you'd like. Other things, too. Experiment. You might surprise yourself. But I did not bring you here to show off. This is where I rest these nights. That door in the back? The bedroom? Similar to yours. I have servants and bodyguards in addition, of course. I brought you here because I need you to trust me. When I told you before that I needed your best behavior to uphold my good standing with the court, I meant it. But that's not the whole story. I have your interest in mind, too. That's why I've given you your own haven, why I'm trying to teach you how to navigate this new reality. But you need to trust me, or else this won't work out. You can come here whenever you feel like to ask me something. When you're in trouble, too, though I hope that won't happen often. I would ask you to come here when you wake up tomorrow. I'll have something to discuss with you. Yeah, I know the whole trust needs to be earned thing, but we were warned about Kadir. We just need to know not to trust her in general. So let's just say, okay, I'll come over first thing tomorrow night. I appreciate that. That silence again. There's definitely something on Sophie's mind tonight, but she doesn't seem eager to share it with you just yet. I'm leaving for another visit. Come downstairs with me. We'll give you a lift. A quick trip, some polite goodbyes, and a promise that you'll show up tomorrow later. You open the door to your haven and gather your thoughts. It's exciting in a way, being dragged deeper and deeper into the secret society and its rules. Whatever Sophie has planned for you is bound to teach you more about this thing you've become. You sink into your vampiric sleep with just a sliver of hope. It's a welcome change. Alright guys, well I think this is a perfect place to go ahead and end the episode. We kind of played ball. We did what Sophie wanted us to do. We talked to the people that we needed to, as well as talking to apparently a pariah of a primogen. And we also kind of took initiative and tried to grab Howard, and that apparently got points, not only with the sheriff, but with the prince as well. So I guess we'll see what happens. Hope you all have enjoyed it. If you liked the episode, please leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, that'd be a big help. And we'll see you next time. Later days, everyone.